Okay, great. Recording in progress. I'm going to share my screen.
Okay.
Um, Let me full screen this. Okay, there we go. Everything look good? Everything sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Well, hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 2025 All Hands meeting. Um, I'm Andre Stackhouse. I'm the executive director of Whole Washington. And I just wanted to say, um, Uh, we are recording this meeting, at least this part of the meeting. And part of the reason we are doing that is so that we can post these updates on YouTube so that people who aren't able to attend can still stay caught up on what's going on. I just posted the January 2025 All Hands to our YouTube account. And so there's links to this on our website, but you can just go to youtube.com and our username is Whole Washington. And you can see what there was a really, really detailed update last month. I probably won't be going as in depth this month, um, but that will get you caught up on that. And then this one will post much faster this month. Um, so as I did last month, I'm going to start with a quick introduction to Whole Washington because a lot of people, the monthly All Hands may be their first meeting. So Whole Washington, we're a 501c4 political nonprofit. We're the authors of a statewide universal healthcare proposal called the Washington Health Trust. Um, and we've introduced this as both a bill and an initiative, but we are the only universal healthcare bill in the legislature right now. We're also the largest universal healthcare group in Washington. Um, we're the only one that's actively building towards a ballot initiative campaign, and we are members of a statewide coalition called Healthcare as a Human Right Washington. A little bit more about them later, but there are 44 member organizations, including a number of labor unions, and we are a voting member of their steering committee. Because this is really big work. It can't be done by any one organization. We really have to build a strong coalition in order to overcome the barriers to universal health care. Um, I'm Andre Stackhouse. As I said, I'm the executive director of Whole Washington officially since December, but I've been with the organization a long time. Uh, I live in Seattle near Green Lake. You can email me, andre@wholewashington.org, and you can set up a one-on-one with me. So if you use cal.com/public stackhouse, that's my booking link, and I use that even for things outside of Whole Washington. So feel free to get in touch with me anytime. I actually would love if you set up a one-on-one with me, and I can help you feel like if you're having trouble figuring out what to do at Whole Washington. I really think of one of the most important parts of my job is to be a sort of personal point of contact for anyone who needs support. So I include this link on this presentation because I want you to use it. So please don't be shy. Um, okay, so just shouting out a few things coming up this month. Um, we have a town hall coming up on the 11th. That's a virtual town hall, so it should be easy for everyone to attend. We also have a movie night on the 17th for a wonderful documentary called Power to Heal, which is about the passage of Medicare and how it played a very, very critical role in the desegregation of the United States' hospital system. And then we have a new volunteer orientation on the 19th, and we're really working to develop our orientation, onboarding, and training programs here at Whole Washington. So show up on the 19th, and hopefully that will help you feel a bit more settled here. And we're always looking to sort of make our volunteers feel supported and like they have the skills they need to be able to contribute and that they know what's going on. Um, so we had really an exciting January. So some of this stuff, you need a little bit of context to know what all of it means, but the Washington Health Trust is our bill in the legislature. Um, and Senate Joint Memorial 8004 is a resolution. And so these kind of are coming at the problem from two different sides. On one hand, we have a full single payer uh, proposal called the Washington Health Trust that really is a comprehensive universal healthcare bill. On the other, we have a resolution, which is a universal healthcare resolution, but it doesn't actually get anyone healthcare. It doesn't change the law. But also, it doesn't cost any money, and we don't have to worry about things like court challenges and stuff like that. So, on one hand, we have sort of our big goal, and then on the other hand, we have a resolution that we hope gives our legislature something very, very easy that they can start with and help us build up to that bigger goal. And the wonderful thing about this is that they were both voted into healthcare as a Human Rights 2025 agenda. And so that means it has a very strong coalition of support behind it. And so between these two things, we're hoping to make some real progress in the legislature this year. We reintroduced the Health Trust into the Senate to a record 11 co-sponsors. We've never had more than 7. And it's not just that we got more co-sponsors, it's that we got more powerful co-sponsors than we've had before. So this 11 included 2 members of the Health and Long-Term Care Committee. That is the committee it has to go through in order to make it to the floor. It also included the Deputy Majority Leader, Manka Dhingra. It included Senator Sharon Shoemake, who is a professor of economics at Western Washington University. And of course, our primary sponsor is Bob Hasegawa. He is the Majority Caucus Chair. So while we have kind of languished for years in the Senate with just a handful of co-sponsors, no members of the Healthcare Committee, we now have what I think is a much more powerful cohort in the Senate and really demands to be taken quite a bit more seriously. For years, it has been our goal to be introduced in the House. It isn't required that a bill is introduced in both chambers. It can make it through one and then go through the other chamber separately. But since we've been so stuck in the Senate, we've really seen the House as an opportunity for us to generate new energy around the bill in the legislature, to get a hearing maybe easier in the House than the Senate. But while we've had many, many supporters in the House, we have struggled to find a primary sponsor until this year. So the bill was introduced. Its prime sponsor is Lisa Parsley. She was formerly on the Olympia City Council and just voted into the legislature this year. And she is a member of the House Health and Wellness Committee. So she is positioned to be a very powerful prime sponsor for the bill. She was joined by Sean Scott, and he has a deep record of political organizing in the Seattle area. He has a lot of very powerful connections in the sort of grassroots organizing community of Washington. Also a freshman legislator. So the two of them introduced it into the House, which was a huge victory all by itself. And then just a few days later, we got the final confirmation on the co-sponsors, and we got 17, which was really on the higher end of what we were expecting. I kind of had been saying for a long time that on the low end, we were expecting, at least 10 co-sponsors, but maybe as many as 20. And so 17 came out at really the higher end of our expectations. So we were incredibly pleased. It also includes 3 members total of the House Health and Wellness Committee. So good timing, good energy behind the bill in the House, and we are actively working to get a hearing. We are most hopeful for getting a hearing in the House, um, but but with the bill now in both chambers, it is so much harder to ignore. It's so much harder to dismiss as a dead bill with no support. So this really represents serious progress on our legislative efforts. Really, we've never started a session so strong before. And then by the end of the month, I think on January 26th, we landed an incredible endorsement from the Washington State Democrats. So we've been endorsed by many individual legislative districts, and the state party has endorsed universal health care for many years. So it's in the party platform. We certainly agree with it from a policy standpoint, but there's always been a more distant relationship between Whole Washington and the Washington Health Trust and the state party. And what's very different about this endorsement is that it is specifically for the Washington Health Trust, and it's much, much easier to endorse the idea of universal health care, but to endorse the specific proposal that is live in the legislature right now, it really does mean a lot. So we are building a lot of institutional support among elected officials, and we're very, very hopeful that we will be able to build off of this. Last month, we ran a virtual town hall. We had a legislative lobbying day, so a crew of us went down to Olympia and went from office to office trying to get meetings, dropping off literature. And then we had a huge volunteer orientation We'll be following up some of these events next month. And then we also have begun to host local events. You can find them on our calendar, but we had local events in Whatcom, Longview, Clark County, and I'm sure I'm missing some. But please check our calendar regularly. There's lots of stuff going on. And as we build more and more local teams, as we bring in more and more volunteers, as we get more and more support from other organizations, there will only be more and more events and opportunities to get involved. Some folks are taking notice out there. So we have a recently redone wholewashington.org/press page. It has a new press email on there, and we have just started to get into the habit of creating press releases. So you can see press releases for many of those updates that I just shared with you. And we sort of revamped our press list. We haven't really had a press list for a long time. So we sent out some of these press releases last week, and at least one outlet took notice. So there are a number of articles out there covering what's going on. A lot of them are more negative in the sense of they're coming from a very, very anti-tax perspective. They're probably written and promoted by our opposition. But this article in the Columbia Basin Herald, I thought was very, very fair coverage, mostly positive, more journalistic in the sense that I thought it had some actual journalistic neutrality. So that article also quoted from our press release directly. So we know that our press releases got seen out there and that at least one outlet picked it up. So as we get better at our press outreach, we hope to see more of these. And we should be working on some new press releases soon. I wanted to get into some updates about Whole Washington, the organization. A lot of these are follow-ups from the update I gave last month. So you can see Director and Officer Insurance. Last month I said we were going to have it soon. It's now official. So Whole Washington has insurance coverage, which I know can be a little bit boring, but one of the things that's really important about this is it protects members of Whole Washington from having individual liability for anything the organization does. And this really helps us recruit top-tier talent who want to support Whole Washington, and that's something that we certainly need. Last month I was saying that we really need a board treasurer, and we still do. But we have a very promising applicant, and so hopefully we'll be able to move that process forward across this month. And next month I'll be telling you about how we have a new board treasurer. But for now, we do have an applicant, and everything is moving forward with that very well at the moment. Our next board meeting is on February 20th. It's always on the third Thursday of the month, and they are open to everyone. So if you're the sort of person who really likes getting into the details of what's going on, who wants to be involved as a Whole Washington leader and in our broad strategy, you're welcome to attend the board meetings. The more we know you, and if we can establish that working relationship, we're certainly excited to move people into leadership positions, whether on the board or elsewhere. As I say here on the other column, we are still working to expand and diversify our board. So our board right now is still really quite small. And when we say diversify, we mean across a number of considerations, including geographic, including things like age, including things like political background, professional background. We are looking to build more staff. I am the only staffer at Whole Washington right now. And even I really am more volunteer than staff. I'm only contracted for a very small number of hours. But the more we can bring in professional staff to support the board and to support the volunteers, the more momentum we'll be able to build. And we're also starting to look into adding a C3 arm to our org. So political nonprofits are much more limited in the money they can raise. C3s are what you might think of more as a traditional charity or a traditional foundation. So they're eligible for much larger grants. They're also able to collect tax-deductible donations. And so a lot of the times, political donors are more interested in donating if it can be a tax-deductible donation. And so if we add a C3 to our organization, we'll be able to raise quite a bit more money. Although the main thing the C3 wouldn't be able to do is political lobbying. So the money would have to go mostly towards education and outreach, but there's a lot of useful things a C3 can do. A quick fundraising update, and I think we'll get a longer one, or maybe I can cut to Catherine. But just a quick summary of what I saw in our Act Blue. You can see as a comparison to December. We're up in terms of our number of contributions, almost by 50%. So where we had 94 contributions in December, we had 149 in January. You'll see the average donation is lower. So a lot of these new donors were probably coming in at smaller donations. We're at that classic Bernie Sanders $27 average donation. And this is not surprising because we had a couple of really large donations come in December, maybe in that holiday giving spirit. So it's always great to get a large donation. You can see that we're about 300 less, just over $4,000 raised total. It's a little bit less than December, but you can see that almost 60% came through recurring donations, and we were less than 30% in December. And recurring donations are so important to what we do because a one-time donation may allow us to make a big purchase or just have a lot more in our sort of bank account, but recurring donations allow us to increase our operating budget and plan ahead for the future. So we really encourage people, no matter how little they feel that they can give, if you can set up a recurring donation, just a few bucks a month, it can really, really help us plan for the future and increase our operating budget in order to do a lot more every day that we're working. Catherine, did you want to do a quick, did you want to add anything to this right now? Or would you rather me just give it to you
I think what
after?
you've done is probably just fine. I did the financial report kind of to have it ready for the board meeting. But I think what you've done is probably totally adequate. Just to say that we've had some major expenses though, in trying to get ready for the gala. We had to put the deposit on the gala. And then we also had the insurance, which was a big expense up front, and then we paid like a monthly every month, a smaller amount now. And then with all of the activity that we did, I believe with all of the lobbying to try to get all the co-sponsors and that kind of stuff, our texting fees and things like that seem to be quite high again for some reason, which is anyway. So we're down a little bit from where I'd like to see us, considering we've had some really big ones, but a lot of those really big things are out of the way too. So anyway.
The larger we get, the larger our lists get, the more updates that we send out on email and text, the larger our expenses get. So all of this growth is really great, but we do have to make sure that our fundraising is keeping up with it. So we are experiencing amazing growth, and I think that mostly we're in a really good place, but we still have a long way to go from where we really need to be in order to win statewide. We talked about some of those numbers last month, but they're really big. Let me just put it that way. Anyway, yes, the gala. So folks may have heard that we are planning our first major gala for Sunday, May 17th. We're planning for our doors open at about 5 p.m. Maybe we may do doors open sooner than that, but roughly it'll be for the evening. It's at the Mount Banker Community Club, which you can see is down sort of in Columbia City, I guess, or south Seattle, sort of in the middle there, south of I-90. I'm really proud to be able to confirm with you all that Senator Hasegawa will be a guest and will be sharing a few words with us. The major thing that we have to do right now is we need to recruit sponsors that'll be both organizational and individual. So we will be selling tickets, but the majority of the funding for this event will come from sponsorships. We probably have to make back at least about $20,000 to $25,000 in order to make this event a successful fundraiser. And really, we're hoping we can bring in as much as 100,000. We are meeting weekly to coordinate the logistics on this. There's a gala channel in Slack. And the next meeting is tomorrow at 6 p.m. So, we have a gala committee, but really, if folks out there have experience with event planning or fundraising, or have organizations in mind who may make good sponsors for an event like this, we certainly want to hear from you. Pam, go ahead.
Thank you, Andre. It's actually Saturday, May 17th.
Okay, I saw Sunday on
Yeah.
one of the graphics, so we've got a
Yes,
graphic
and
to
I'm gonna
update
put
as
a little
well.
note in about the graphic, okay?
Okay,
Thank you.
well, thank you for correcting that. It is Saturday, May 17th, and we will update as many places as we find that error.
Okay.
Okay, great. So, quick update on our coalition. We, only recently rejoined Healthcare as a Human Right Washington, and we are developing this relationship. And I just want to say it's going very well. If you are interested in kind of getting outside of Whole Washington and seeing the broader coalition, I do encourage you to check out their website, check out their meetings, check out their work. They have a couple of great committees that meet regularly, including an organizing committee, a policy committee. We are on the steering committee, and they voted their 2025 policy agenda in January. It's voted all or nothing, and it had both of our bills that we really are bottom lining. So that's the Washington Health Trust and Joint Memorial 8004. And they were both on the agenda, and it was voted by an overwhelming majority, including a number of labor unions. We've talked a lot about the importance of building labor support and really getting labor to back this. That's where some of these big dollars will come from. They also have large memberships that can push this. They are good at winning on statewide ballot initiatives. They defeated 3 out of the 4 Brian Haywood initiatives last election. So we absolutely need labor support, and this coalition gives us the means to develop those relationships with labor. We are currently coordinating with this coalition to push for a committee hearing on the Washington Health Trust. So we have a sign-on letter. We wrote the letter. We are collecting signatures from all of the member organizations. And we hope that where these committee chairs may not have listened to us in the past, that they may take healthcare as a human right, the coalition with over 44 members, a little bit more seriously. And we are planning for actions in Olympia and elsewhere throughout the year. We are hoping to hold a major demonstration in Olympia before the end of this month, which will give us the timing to really push them on that committee hearing. So keep your eye open for that. Yeah, so an update on kind of where we are in the legislature. I've already kind of alluded to a lot of these things, but the committee hearing for the cutoff for a committee hearing is March 12th. And the only caveat to that is, one, the session probably will be extended because it's a budget year, and there can be committee hearings after March 12th on bills that are considered necessary to implement the budget. And so we think that there is a strong case to be made that because there are so many savings associated with universal health care, and because our bill actually raises all of the necessary revenue plus a surplus, that it can be considered necessary to implement the budget. That is the next milestone for the Health Trust. It needs committee hearings before it can get a floor vote. On the resolution, it's passed the Senate twice. It's really the House that requires more work. It did not get called to the floor by the Speaker of the House last session. So you can see on that right column, these are really the 3 legislators that are most important to us right now. So Dan Bernofsky and Annette Cleveland, they are the chairs of the House and Senate Healthcare Committees. And it is their sole discretion whether or not the Washington Health Trust will be called to a hearing this year. Lori Jenkins is the Speaker of the House. So assuming that 8004 makes it through the Senate and makes it through the House Healthcare Committee as it did last year, it's really Lori Jenkins who we need to get confirmation is ready to call this to a vote. And she has expressed, I would say, less than full support for it. And so we're hoping we can really make it clear to her how important this resolution is to us. It was not our idea to run this resolution. This was the legislature's idea for how we could build to universal health care. And if they can't pass it, then it's really their failure. And it really shows where we can set our expectations in terms of working with the legislature. Leah, go ahead.
Real quick, what LD is Dan Bernowski in?
Great question. I didn't take it down. If somebody
28.
could look that up for me, 38?
28.
28.
28. Okay,
And
great.
what about Lori Jenkins?
Pam's.
27.
Goma, 27.
Perfect. I'm just trying to see if I know people in that area to put pressure on them. Thank you.
Yes, and one thing I will say is I've met with Annette Cleveland before. I have never met with Dan or Lori. If you do establish contact with them, one of the first things you should ask for is to have them meet with me. I am good at having these conversations. I think that it'd be great if we could meet with them together. But especially when you start to see resistance, they really need to hear it from me. Go ahead, Leah.
So would you like me to reach out to Senator Cleveland's office and ask her if she'd be willing to meet with you?
I'm already
Have you
working
already met
on
with her?
Senator Cleveland, but it certainly wouldn't hurt to hear from you. So, feel free to, but I am working on it.
Good, because I've had everybody down here, as many people as I know, calling her office. So
Okay, let's move on. I wanted to give an update on the Pledge to Sign campaign. So that you can see this. I've revamped this page. So it's a little bit cleaner. Also, you can now see the counter of where we are. So you can check back all the time and see the pledges coming in. It's at wholewashington.org/pledge. We crossed 3,000 pledges, which is a great little milestone. We got to keep driving this up. We had set a goal in the past for 50,000. Really we can't have too many pledges. It'll take probably a million to 2 million votes in order to succeed. So the pledge kind of allows us to build that support ahead of the election, ahead of the signature drive. But we got over 1,150 of these in January alone. So you can see that approximately 1/3 of these just in the last month. So that is serious momentum in January. So if anyone in here has not signed this pledge yet, please sign it. You can share it to social media. You can request any mailing lists you're on to send this out. We are really hoping to continue to ramp this up, especially this year. The higher we can get this, the more we know that we're ready to take this to the ballot. Okay, another web page I wanted to let you all know about. This is a new page on our site, or it's kind of, I guess we used to have a page for this, but wholewashington.org/print. You can see that we have a flyer on there. We have a design for pin back buttons if you happen to have a button press. There will be more stuff on there, including business cards. I'm hoping bumper stickers, quarter sheets, door hangers. But for now, we've got a handful of things up there. So we want to make it really easy for you to just find where the stuff is, whether you're planning on printing this yourself or sometimes you just want the PDF so you can send it to, to some group or something like that. So be sure to look at wholewashington.org/print for that. There's also a link there to a digital toolkit. So if you're one of the people who works on graphics, check the toolkit for what we've got. It includes things like our logo. I think we probably ought to get some photos in there. And then any graphics that you've developed for Whole Washington should be put in that toolkit. It's just a link to a Google Drive folder. But we're really trying to consolidate so that we don't have so many things floating around in so many places. So we've got a great webpage for it now. And I guess that's the end of my updates. So do we have any additional questions? Okay, I'm not seeing any so far. I can stop sharing my screen and I'm inclined to stop the recording as well, just so that the rest of the meeting folks can participate without feeling like they're going to be put on the internet. If that sounds good to everyone, that's really the kind of bulk of my updates.
I'm trying to kind of go through the agenda, the written agenda. Andre. And I think you mentioned the April 27th volunteer training in Spokane that we're gonna be doing?
I did not mention it,
Oh,
so,
It's gonna be happening in Spokane on April 27th. We're still working on getting that organized, so. If you know anybody in Spokane, I don't think there's anybody here tonight from there.
I'm not in Spokane, but I'm not that far from
Oh,
it. If you need
yeah.
someone, depending on my schedule, to go up there.
Awesome. Anybody who's over there that can make it over there, that we really wanted to do this. We've done several here on the west side. We really wanted to do one on the east side to support all the volunteers that we do have over there. I don't see Raleigh here about the commission. So I don't know if we want to update on that or not, but Lee is here about the initiative. And one of the things that I feel very strongly about is that we need to go ahead and plan on filing an initiative, and that opportunity comes March 1st. And making sure that we're ready if we decide that we're able to and we need to, if we decide we need to run an initiative. It's hard to know, it feels like there's so many good things happening in the legislature, but we know how they can be disappointing, and being ready, we feel, is kind of one of the best things that we can do. It's kind of a long process, right, Leah? So we're,
Yes.
yes, hoping
I'm
to be.
gonna just, sorry,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt. I'm just gonna go ahead and stop the recording if that's okay.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do it.
Sorry.